Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you on a journey. Picture a woman standing at the crossroads of change, faced with broken systems, hurting people, and an uphill battle. She didn't rise to power by trampling over others or barking orders. No, she chose a different path, one paved with compassion. Compassion isn't weakness. It's not a soft alternative to real leadership. Compassion is the grit to see beyond someone's mistakes and recognize their potential. It's the courage to reach out when others pull back. Compassion is a force that breaks barriers, heals wounds, and builds bridges. Every compassionate leader begins with self-awareness. You cannot pour into others when you're running on empty. She knows her worth and draws strength from her story, whether it's marred by failures or lit up with victories. Her vulnerability isn't her downfall, it's her superpower. There's strength in gentleness even when the world demands force. Imagine a woman leading a divided team, not by shouting the loudest, but by listening the hardest. She makes space for others' voices, creating unity from discord. She sees beyond the obvious, recognizing that leadership isn't about control, but cultivation. The woman who leads with compassion finds the diamond in the rough, the promise in the problem. She doesn't just see what is, she sees what could be and helps others see it too. But don't mistake her grace for passivity. She holds her ground, balancing compassion with accountability. She understands that leading with kindness doesn't mean avoiding tough decisions. It means making them with integrity and humanity. The ripple effect of compassion is real. One act of kindness from a leader can inspire a chain reaction, transforming families, workplaces, and even entire communities. Yes, there are challenges. Compassionate leaders face skepticism. They're told they're too soft or too idealistic, but the rewards far outweigh the struggles. They leave legacies of trust, growth, and love. So what about you? What would happen if you chose compassion today? If you saw someone's pain instead of their anger? If you gave a little more grace where it wasn't deserved? The world needs more women who lead with compassion. Women who embody both strength and softness. Women who change the world not by force but by love. Let us not underestimate the power of a woman who leads with compassion. She doesn't just inspire change, she becomes the change. And that, my friends, is leadership in its truest form. Thank you. Imagine standing in a room filled with people, each one carrying their own burdens, their own dreams, their own struggles, and then in walks a woman who doesn't just see them as they are, but as they could be. She doesn't look at their flaws or their past, she sees their potential. She walks in with a calm strength that doesn't shout to be heard, but gently invites others to listen. She doesn't demand respect, she earns it through her presence, her authenticity, and her ability to meet people where they are. This is the power of compassionate leadership. Compassionate leadership is often misunderstood. The world tells us that leaders are those who dominate, who rise above the crowd, who make decisions with power and precision. But the woman who leads with compassion shows us a different path. Her leadership isn't about asserting control or claiming authority. It's about creating space for others to thrive. It's about the quiet strength of understanding, the courage to listen before speaking, and the ability to lift others up rather than push them down. She knows that compassion isn't just an act of kindness, it's a tool for transformation. When she leads with her heart open. She doesn't turn away from the pain of others, she steps toward it, offering not only solutions, but the very gift of empathy. She understands that people are not projects to be fixed, but human beings to be nurtured. And in that nurturing, she ignites something powerful within them, a belief that they can be better, do better, and achieve more than they ever thought possible. In this world, we often equate leadership with being tough, with being unmovable, with never showing weakness. But compassionate leadership teaches us that true strength is not in hiding our hearts, but in embracing them. It teaches us that vulnerability is not a liability, but a catalyst for change. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. And that presence, full of compassion and understanding, holds the power to move mountains. At the heart of compassionate leadership lies something simple yet profound self-awareness. It's an understanding that leadership isn't just about what you do for others, but how you show up for yourself. Before you can offer your heart to the world, you must first know what it holds. This is where true leadership begins within. When a woman leads with compassion, she has taken the time to understand her own struggles, her own fears, and her own desires. She isn't someone who hides from her pain. She embraces it, learns from it, and uses it to fuel her growth. She recognizes that her journey, with all its highs and lows, has shaped the leader she is today. It's not just about being aware of your emotions, it's about understanding how they influence your actions, decisions, and relationships. A compassionate leader is someone who doesn't act from a place of anger or frustration, but from a place of anger or frustration, but from a place of grounded understanding. She listens before reacting, reflects before responding, and leads with intention rather than impulse. She's not perfect, but she's always striving to be the best version of herself. And that pursuit of personal growth, of leading with integrity, honesty, and authenticity is the foundation upon which she builds her leadership. The second pillar of compassionate leadership is empathy. Empathy isn't just about feeling sorry for others or offering a quick solution. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and truly understanding their experience. It's about acknowledging that everyone is fighting their own battles, facing their own challenges, and that no one's story is just black and white. A compassionate leader sees beyond the surface. She doesn't just hear words, she listens to the emotions behind them. She doesn't judge quickly, she takes the time to understand the context. And through that understanding, she creates a space where others feel seen, heard, and valued. When you lead with empathy, you lead with heart. You create a culture of trust where people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to share their challenges, and to ask for help when needed. It's not about having all the answers, but about having the courage to walk alongside others as they find their own. A compassionate leader doesn't just direct, she mentors. She doesn't just command, she inspires. She doesn't just manage, she nurtures, and in doing so, she builds a team, a community that believes in each other and in the shared vision they are working toward. Compassionate leadership also requires vulnerability. It takes immense strength to be open about your own challenges, your own failures, and your own growth. It means showing up as your true self, not the polished, perfect version that we sometimes think leadership demands. It's okay to admit that you don't have all the answers. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to make mistakes. A compassionate leader leads by example, showing that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a source of strength. It encourages others to do the same, to open up, to share their stories, and to grow together as a collective force. When you lead with compassion, you are not afraid to show your heart. You allow others to see the real you, the flawed, imperfect, yet resilient you. And in doing so, you create a space where others can be real too. You invite them into There is a common misconception in the world that strength must always be loud, forceful, and unyielding. We are often taught to believe that to be a true leader, you must dominate the room, speak the loudest, and assert your authority. But the strength and gentleness is a power that can't be measured by volume or aggression. It's a force that speaks in calmness, that flows quietly but leaves a lasting impact. The woman who leads with gentleness knows that sometimes the most profound changes come not from the loudest voices, but from the softest hands. Gentleness is not weakness. It's a deep, quiet strength that stands firm in the face of adversity. A compassionate leader doesn't shy away from difficult conversations or uncomfortable situations. Instead, she faces them with a grace that invites growth rather than conflict. She knows that when you approach challenges with patience and understanding, you create an environment where people are not afraid to learn, to fail, and to try again. There is power in knowing when to step back and listen, and in doing so, she offers others the space they need to grow. A gentle leader doesn't push or force others to bend to their will. Instead, she inspires them to rise to their own potential, to reach higher, and to become better versions of themselves. She leads not by control, but by influence. Her gentleness is like a steady stream that gently carves its way through the hardest stone. It doesn't demand change, it nurtures it. When a leader acts with gentleness, she isn't letting others walk over her. She is setting a standard that says, I believe in you, and I trust you to find your way. That belief, that trust becomes a powerful force for transformation. Gentleness also allows a leader to be present in moments of pain and struggle. The woman who leads with gentleness doesn't shy away from the discomfort of others' emotions. She embraces it. She walks into the brokenness of others with empathy and understanding, offering not just solutions, but the gift of a listening ear, of a comforting presence. In a world that often pushes people to hide their pain, a gentle leader offers a safe space for that pain to be acknowledged and healed. And yet, gentleness isn't about avoiding confrontation. It's about knowing how to handle difficult situations with a balance of kindness and strength. It's about approaching the hardest of conversations with respect and care, ensuring that your words don't just cut through the air, but leave room for healing and growth. A gentle leader can still set boundaries, can still hold others accountable, and can still stand firm in her beliefs. But she does so with a heart that values relationships and human dignity above all. True strength and gentleness comes from the deep understanding that people are not problems to be fixed, but souls to be nurtured. When you lead with gentleness, you lead with the understanding that people are at their best when they feel safe, valued, and cared for. It's the leader who knows that a kind word, a small act of service, or a simple smile can break down walls and open hope in hearts. To lead with compassion is to see the world not just as it is, but as it could be. It's the ability to look beyond the surface, beyond the immediate obstacles, and to catch a glimpse of something greater, something more beautiful than what's visible to the eye. A woman who leads with vision sees possibilities where others see only limitations. She doesn't just accept things as they are, she believes in the potential for transformation, for growth, and for change. Vision beyond the obvious isn't about having a grand abstract dream that others cannot relate to. It's about recognizing the untapped potential in people, in communities, and in situations. It's about seeing not just what is, but what could be if given the right support, encouragement, and direction. A compassionate leader looks at a person struggling with doubt and sees a future leader in the making. She looks at a community divided by conflict and sees the foundation for unity. She sees the world as it could be, and she is willing to take the steps necessary to turn that vision into reality. This type of vision requires courage, the courage to look beyond the immediate challenges, to see beyond the mistakes and failures that might cloud someone's story, and to believe in a brighter tomorrow. It's not always easy. The obvious path is often the one that feels safest, the one that requires the least effort, the one that everyone else is walking. But a woman with vision beyond the obvious refuses to take the easy road. She sees things differently. She sees the potential in the darkness, the opportunity in the struggle, the beauty in the mess. A woman who leads with this kind of vision is not deterred by setbacks because she understands that setbacks are just the preparation for breakthroughs. When she faces obstacles, she doesn't turn away from them, she steps into them. She knows that sometimes the road to something extraordinary is paved with difficulty, but that doesn't stop her. She keeps moving forward, not because the path is easy, but because the vision she holds is worth every step. She keeps her eyes on the future, not the present circumstances, because she knows that what is visible right now is just a small piece of the puzzle. What's more, vision beyond the obvious doesn't just look forward, it looks around. It sees the unnoticed people, the ones who are often overlooked or dismissed. It sees the brokenhearted, the ones who struggle with their sense of worth, and the ones who are still searching for their purpose. It sees them not as problems to be fixed, but as individuals with untold stories, with gifts that have yet to be unlocked. Compassionate leadership is about helping others see what they cannot yet see in themselves. It's about reminding them of the value they bring even when they don't feel it. And in doing so, that leader creates an environment where everyone is given the chance to rise to their fullest potential. Vision beyond the obvious requires patience. It's not an instant revelation, but a continual process of believing in the unseen and working to bring it into reality. A compassionate leader doesn't just cast a vision once and walk away, she nurtures it. She tends to it like a gardener cares for a seed, knowing that in time it will grow into something beautiful. And as it grows, it inspires others to believe that their dreams are possible too. Compassion is often seen as a small, gentle force, something quiet and soft, but the truth is its impact can be more profound and far-reaching than we could ever imagine. When one person acts with compassion, it doesn't just stop at the one who receives it. It creates a ripple effect, a wave of kindness, understanding, and connection that spreads outwards, touching lives in ways we might never see, but which ultimately make the world a better place. When a woman leads with compassion, she doesn't just change the course of one life, she changes the course of many. Compassion is not a transactional act, it's transformative. The simple act of showing someone you care, of taking the time to listen, of giving someone a chance when others have walked away, can shift the trajectory of their life. And in turn, that person touched by compassion will go on to share it with others. It's like throwing a stone into a still pond. The initial splash seems small, but the ripples spread out in all directions, touching everything in its path. Imagine a woman leading a team or a community. She makes the choice to see the good in people, to understand their struggles, and to offer a hand of support when things get tough. This act of compassion doesn't go unnoticed. It begins to shift the culture around her. The people she touches begin to feel more valued, more seen, and more empowered. They, in turn, will begin to pass that kindness forward, to treat others with the same grace and understanding that they have received. And before you know it, a culture of compassion is born, where the standard is no longer fear or competition, but love and empathy. It's important to remember that the ripple effect of compassion doesn't always show up in obvious ways. You might never know the full extent of how your actions have influenced someone's life. That kind word you offered in passing, the encouragement you gave to someone struggling, the way you lifted someone up when they felt they couldn't stand on their own, those small acts of compassion have the power to stay with a person for a lifetime. They may not be able to repay you in the moment, but they will carry your kindness with them, passing it on when the opportunity arises. The ripple effect is also contagious. When compassion is shared, it ignites something deep within us. We are wired to connect, and when we feel compassion, we naturally want to give it back. It's a cycle that builds on itself, creating a force far stronger than any one individual. Compassion doesn't only affect those who are directly involved, it also inspires others to be compassionate. It has a way of spreading from person to person to person, from heart to heart, until it becomes a collective force. One act of compassion can inspire 1,000 more, each one amplifying the power of the last. This ripple effect also has the power to heal. In a world where pain, suffering, and division often feel overwhelming, compassion becomes a balm for the soul. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that there are others who understand, who care, and who are willing to walk with us through the darkest times. Compassion builds bridges where walls once stood, and it breaks down barriers that separate us from one another. It doesn't matter our differences. When we approach each other with kindness, we find common ground, and in that shared space, healing begins. Compassionate leadership is not without its challenges. It's easy to talk about leading with kindness, about reaching out to others with empathy and understanding. But when you're actually in the trenches, facing opposition, misunderstanding, or even rejection, it's much harder to remain steady and compassionate. The world can be a harsh place, and there will be moments when your kindness is met with resistance or even taken for granted. But it is in those moments that your true strength as a compassionate leader is forged. The challenge lies in maintaining that soft heart in a hard world. Compassion demands vulnerability, and sometimes feel like an invitation for hurt. It takes courage to continue leading with love when it feels like others aren't reciprocating or appreciating your efforts. There will be days when you feel as if your compassion is being drained, when your kindness is being stretched too thin, and you might question whether it's all worth it. The work of compassion is often unseen, unacknowledged, and uncelebrated. It can feel like you're giving without ever receiving anything in return. But that is the nature of true compassion. It isn't about what you get, it's about what you give. And in the giving, you will discover a strength that transcends the immediate challenges.